Hello, my name is Hank Holliday. I'm a student at Capilani Community College. I'm currently in the Culinary Arts program, and I'm going to give you a summary of a book by a chef by the name of Marcus Samuelsson. The book is called Yes, Chef, a Memoir. Now, you may have heard of Marcus Samuelsson. He's a pretty interesting character. You may have seen him on TV, the Food Network, Bravo Channel, Top Chef, things like that. He does a lot of celebrity guest appearances, and he does a lot of judges, and he has a lot of charities and things like that. So you may have heard of him. He was some of his more notable accomplishments. He was the youngest chef to get a 3-star rating from the New York Times, which is pretty incredible for his work at Aquavit, where he was the executive chef, which is a Swedish-style restaurant in New York City. And he also is a James Beard Award winner, which is pretty impressive as well. And he's won a couple other different awards and everything. He's also written about 8 books, both in Swedish and English. And to look at him, you might think he's just a typical American guy, but as soon as you start talking, you get this funky Swedish accent, so it's pretty cool. So he speaks about 3 or 4 different other languages too, so he's a pretty intense guy. Been well-traveled, he's been all over the world, but he has a pretty interesting story about him. He's not your typical chef. He was born in Ethiopia in 1971, and a couple years later, he ended up getting TB. And during this outbreak, they had a serious TB epidemic, and his sister and his mother also contracted the illness. And his mother got so ill that she had to go get help, so she loaded up the kids and walked them to the nearest hospital, which is about 75 miles away. So keep in mind, they lived in the boonies, then you go 5 more miles. That's how far back in the woods they lived. It was pretty intense. So anyway, she gets to the hospital, but unfortunately she didn't make it. She ended up dying from the disease. But they did manage to save him and his sister. So because of the war, they were separated from his parents and the rest of his family. So they ended up getting adopted by a Swedish family, of all things, Swedish meatballs and, the herring and all that good stuff. Yeah, so he ended up in Sweden. But it worked out good for him because that's where he learned how to cook. His grandmother taught him how to cook and showed him how to make all the traditional Swedish food like meatballs and the herring, the fish, and all those other good things. And his father, who happened to was a fisherman when he was younger, taught him everything he needed to know about fish. So he learned to love food a lot. But his real passion when he was growing up, he wanted to play soccer, and he was pretty good at it. He was athletic, fit, light, and he could run all over the place, and so he was really good at soccer. And he had hopes of going pro, but it didn't work out for him because as he got older and got into the bigger leagues, he just was too small, so they cut him, and so he ended up getting kicked out of soccer, and that crushed his dreams. He was sad about that for a while, but then he focused all his efforts on cooking after that, and that's when he decided he was going to be a chef, and that's where he is now. He's a world famous chef, but it wasn't easy for him. He really worked his butt off. He worked 14, 15 hours a day, but he was very talented, so he ended up getting a lot of pretty interesting internships. So he went to France, he went to Switzerland, he ended up in New York City, and then he ended up back in New York City after a while, and he was offered a full-time job. Now keep in mind, he'd been working in his teens, like 14, 15 hours a day for no money, so he's always broke. And then what money he did have, he always spent it on food because he wanted to try new things. And so he ended up back in New York City for Aquavit. This is a Swedish-based type restaurant, and the chef gave him a chance, and he started using his techniques and his ideas to reinvigorate the menu, and that's when things started happening good for him. So he got all these awards, got his accolades. He got this top chef in New York City. He got the James Beard Award. Then they ended up on TV shows and interviews, and so his name became pretty famous after that. And then that's when things started looking up for him. One thing that should be of note: he was asked to be a guest chef for the state dinner for President Obama in 2009 for the Prime Minister of India. So he put together a pretty good menu for that. And I've been to a couple of those steak dinners before, and they're pretty awesome events. And so to get invited as a guest chef to work there is pretty cool. So he's pretty much come around full circle. Like I said, he's written about 8 books, including this Yes Chef. And so if you want to learn about chefs and dedication and passion, you just take a look at this book and read it, and you'll see what he had to do to get where he got. And just got to work hard. You can do it. Thank you.